everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. Today we are going to be looking at X Factor number 16 from 1987. This issue cover is by Walter Simonson. However, he does not do the inside. Walt Simonson during this time is still writing Thor, so he didn't do the inside, but David Mazzuchelli does. And so we're gonna have David Mazzuchelli with one of his final comic book works with Marvel, and this story really is about Skids and Rusty, and there's hardly any X Factor here. So, with that said, Walter Simon, I think, does everything now for. I think he'll do most of the issues without skipping any. For at least 10 issues. I think he'll do 10 straight issues way past 20. I don't know. He'll do quite a few issues straight. So I know that he took over with issue 10, and we've already had two fill-in artists, but yeah, he'll be doing it. So we're gonna start off with Rusty and Skids doing a training session here. And Louise Simonson, writer. David Mazzucchelli is the penciler. David Mazzucchelli does not ink himself. Josef Rubinstein is the inker, and then Bob Harris and Jim Shooter continue with editorial. Rest in peace, Jim Shooter. And so while they're training, you can see her little necklace coming through here, and Rusty accidentally snags it and breaks it, which brings a memory of her from when her father was beating her mother and she tore the necklace. This would be Skids here. And Skids is very angry that he broke the necklace, and Jean Grey comes and says, well, pick him up. And of course, Rusty says she can't pick him up. She's got her force field, and she's like, she needs to learn how to undo it. And she gets frustrated. She's like, I can't, and she decides, I'm going back to the Morlocks. And Rusty comes back, or Rusty says he's going to go after her, and runs into Cyclops here. And so Jean kind of tells him what's going on here, and so she picks up the pearl necklace, and Cyclops and her talk for a little bit, and they wonder if what they're supposed to be doing with X Factor is really working. And he says, "Oh, you missed one," and uses his power to get it back. And so Cyclops says, if anybody can get through to her and make her open up, it'll be Rusty. Just the way back when we were kids, you got through to me. And Jean says, yeah, I hope it works out better for them than it did for us. So, if I have a playlist, I've covered X Factor from the very beginning. Feel free to check those out. Cyclops left his wife to go to X Factor, and it's been a big mess. He went back to find his wife, but his wife is disappeared, and he believes her to be dead because he found a body and has not found his son, but he's not looking for him because he's a jerk. That's all right. Anyway. And so she's going back to the Morlocks, so Rusty's following it. I just love how you can get to the sewer from anywhere. And so he finds her, and she's like, I'm going back to the Morlocks. I don't want to control my power. I don't want to pass as a person. Thinks about, again, the last time, and the dad was, of course, trying to beat up Skids, and the mom tries to stop me, and he pushes her, and she, of course, hits her head. And Skids goes, I don't want to be like humans. I don't want to pass for a human. and then Rusty trips, but Mask is watching, and so he says if you control your power, maybe I we can do this, which is he's gonna go for a kiss, but of course he then loses his powers, so she can't control her powers. He loses her power. He's like um that freaks her out again. We're getting more of her origin. Louise Simonson, really good writer. I think Chris Claremont really taught Louise Simonson a thing or two about storytelling. And so he's like, we need to learn to control our powers, both of us. And so meanwhile, Mask goes and attack. He tries to make her ugly because he doesn't like pretty things, but his power kind of just skids off her. And so he decides he's gonna do that to Rusty, but she gets tells him that they'll tell Erg he's the new leader of the Morlocks, and so Mask lets him go so they don't tattletale. Real quick, I love this. You see the hand, but then you see the shade of it. I'm a big sucker for that stuff. I like brush. I know people love to use their microns and all that kind of stuff, but I'm a brush guy. So give me Klaus Janson, Chris Samney, give me people that work. Josef Rubinstein, Bob Wycheck, give me brush people. And so they're looking. He's reading the paper and reading about Angel. He of course um, has committed suicide, or so they believe. But they see this, and this is the woman in San Diego that Rusty accidentally burned. And so he goes to Cameron Hodge and says, I get it, but I love the screen tones here. He says, with Warren dead, the money there may not be enough to be able to cover her expenses, and so he feels terrible because she's been burned by him, and so he decides to go over to Mask. He's gonna make him a deal. You make her pretty, and I'll let you turn me ugly. So they are going to go into the hospital because, hey, apparently the sewers let you go anywhere. And so they get to the hospital and they're going to go get the woman in here. And so we've got Boom Boom, Artie, Skids, and Rusty. And they find her. She realizes that he's the one that burned her, but she forgives him. She is into God, she's into the Bible, and she has a calling now, and they're like, we'll still help you. So they take her with him to the sewers, and he's like, when she does the boom, he's like, hey, that's major property damage. We're supposed to be the good guys. Look at Boom Boom, so sue me. So they're like, let's argue somewhere else. So there's Mask, and Mask is going to first she looks at him and she goes, I know how you must feel. And he says, you'll do nothing. And he's like, Mask, no, our bargain, fix her. So he makes her pretty, and so she thanks her. And as they're walking away, he realizes Rusty's not there, and they come back, and Rusty has been turned by Mask. And Skids is like, no. And when she says, if that's the price, then no, I'm not gonna let somebody else, you know, pay or take my guilt or take my sin or take my, I'm not interested in that, So he makes her ugly again, and so he Mass says, oh well, I guess I get to keep both, and Skids is like, nope, you change him back. And so she's gonna try to do something, but she's got her force field. She thinks of her dad and how her force field got activated, and once her mutant power got activated, the dad ended up leaving, and so the mom says, "Take the pearls to remind me of him," and so the mom dies, and so she controls her power, and there goes the um the force field and actually starts to choke Mask. So he's like, well, I can make you unpretty. So then he burns her clothes off, and Mask feels shame without this cloak and says, put him back together, or we're gonna fry all your clothes in there. And Mask, of course, does as he's told, and so Mask gets his cloak back, and he's like, change her back, and she's like, no, that's okay. And so she decides that she is going to join the Morlocks, and she is going to uh preach to them and convert them, which is something that is kind of cool and something that just does not happen nowadays. Just everything now is anti, but we had a very human stories back in the 80s. In the 70s and 80s, I think we had a level of that you could do certain things and discuss things. So she's gonna go and preach, and they're like, "Wow, she's gonna bring religion to the Morlocks. This I gotta see." And so, Boom Boom takes Artie with her, and Rusty gives her the pearl, and she loses her force field, and we just end in this panel, which, by the way, I love the color and I love this David Mazzuchelli. My God, um, I love his art. So, um, she goes, "See, if I can control it, you can control your flame. I know you can. You just have to want it hard enough." And that's it. That's the end. So, pretty cool story. Like I said, it wasn't really an X Factor story, but it gives us more for these kids. And so, X Factor 16 by Louise Simonson, David Mazzuchelli with Joseph Rubinstein. Like and subscribe. I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.